Foster Show on YouTube, originating from the Ridge Floor Studios in the City of Charm, beautiful downtown Avon Park. I'd like to remind you, if you have any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions for our program, just drop us a line at thebarryfostershow@gmail.com. If you'd like to be a sponsor, send us an email, and we will send you a rate card. And check out our YouTube page here daily. Monday through Friday, we try to put up new content each and every weekday morning. And please subscribe to the YouTube page and join our pages, The Barry Foster Show, on Facebook and Instagram. That would be very helpful. In the studios, John Larsen, the handsome, exciting John. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
We had a great guest at the Highlands Tea Party last week, Raymond McIntyre, who was talking about property.
At the Republican Party?
No, at the Republican Party. I'm sorry. It was Raymond McIntyre talking about property appraisal, and that was kind of an eye-opener for a lot of us.
Yeah, he had a lot of good, although I'm glad he spent quite a bit of time talking about the proposed elimination of property taxes, because that, and Raymond explained, and rightfully so, it's great to say, everybody raised their hand and said in favor of getting rid of property taxes. 100% of the hands are probably going to go in the air, okay? Sure. But like he said, folks, you got to consider the downside. Where does the money come to fund the government if you eliminate property taxes? And
that's been a big question. There are like 20 different ideas circulating right now, and I think that at some level, it's the Jenny Craig method. If you're trying to lose weight, one of the first things you do is quit putting as much in. And so if the government has fewer dollars to spend, they have to begin to decide what's really important and what is just nice that we have the money to spend it on such and such. Right.
I was thinking, listening to him talk about it, and we've heard him talk about it at the Tea Party, now at the Republican Party meeting, and so on, and other places. But I think I sat there and I thought about it. I said, okay, John, you can't cut it off immediately. Okay, that would maybe be financial suicide. So what would I do? If I was in charge of it, what I would do is stretch it out over like maybe a reduction of 10% a year for 10 years. Mm-hmm. So you take a little bite of the apple each year, but then they have to adjust their budget based on that reduced amount. In the meantime, you also come up with alternative means of supporting the government. And there has to be some, let's face it, we all say, well, I don't want any government. Well, that's all well and good. But you want police protection, you want fire protection, you want garbage pickup, you want a sewer department, you want roads repaired. So things have to happen, and it all takes money.
Yes.
You can't just cut it off and say, no money. No, you can't do that. So I would take a little bite of the apple. I wouldn't do it all at once. Like I said, 10% a year for 10 years. That would give them 10 years to figure out how to make this thing work.
The county commission has already done something like this under impact fees. Under impact fees. And what they did was they put these huge impact fees, but only enacted them at like 15% of the total. So they started very low and to get people to begin to pay for some of the impact they would have here. And so if the county commission has to begin to deal with this, the first thing they're going to have to do is figure out, well, what's important? Well, we have to make sure the sheriff gets money. Mm-hmm. They have to, fire and EMS gets money. After that, I think it gets really dicey.
That is, but you can't. I mean, you can't say, well, let's eliminate garbage pickup. No, you can't do that.
No, but your garbage pickup is paid for by garbage fees.
Right.
Okay.
But, I mean, you can't eliminate that.
And fires, that we all have a fire assessment.
Right.
And much to my great delight, they lifted the cap. If you have a house that's valued at a higher rate, you're going to pay a higher fee. Mm-hmm. And that's just all there is to it. So they've eliminated the cap on some of this stuff. There are fees for service, and I don't mind that. I pay a gas tax when I go up here to the gas station, and I know that goes to either make new roads or to fix the existing roads, and I'm okay with that. I use the roads. I'm driving on the roads. I don't mind that at all. Mm-hmm. What I don't like is when they take my property taxes and begin to put in low-income housing, or affordable housing, or even workforce housing, whatever funny little name they have for it.
Right.
That when the county commissioners look at things, do you have this money? Oh, yes, we can find the money for this.
Well, like I said, it's like I equate it to something like buying a car.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're 1 in a million, you can go in and say, "Here's a handful of cash.
Yeah.
I want that car." Not many people can do that.
No.
So what do? You put it on a payment plan. All right, you pay so much a month for however many years or whatever you want to do, and now that they have, what did I hear yesterday? They have car loans now up to 7 years.
Is that right?
7 years. You can get a car loan for 7 years.
Okay.
And so, but the reason for that is what we're just talking about. How can you pay for this, but not make it hurt so much all at once?
It's like the 50-year home mortgage.
Yes.
You buy it when you're 25 and you get done when you're 75, if you make it to 75.
Well, and the problem is you're paying so much interest
That's
in
right.
that plan. I think that's a dead fish in the water.
Well,
I don't think that's going anywhere.
I understand this, but we have seen, and this year my tax, the bottom line on my bill was higher.
Mm-hmm.
They can say all they want to about reducing the millage rate and all this other stuff. You can't tell me that you get elected to public office and don't know how this works.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that they can't make it. Any county commissioner can make a call to Raymond McIntyre and Eric Zoyer, and which is the property appraiser and the tax assessor, and find out the answers to those questions. And the county commission, as the table gets set with another dish to try, well, we'll take a spoonful of this, we'll take a spoonful of that. Hey, because the county commission, since I got here in '86, there were 46,000 people. Mm-hmm. Okay, and since that time, the government has just grown itself to do more and more and more things. Mm-hmm. And they should be starting to divest themselves of things, no matter how small they are. I've talked to them about doing away, for instance, putting the Economic Development Commission back into a public-private partnership. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's just a small drop in the bucket. That's basically nothing. Well, let's start with basically nothing and work our way up to basically something. Mm-hmm. And if people really want some of these things, then the people will be willing to pay for them.
Right. Not
everybody wants to pay for all the stuff that the government does.
Well, that was the other question I had for Raymond on Thursday, but he had so many questions. He wanted to get out there. He
had a bunch of questions, and even after he kept saying that he was going to cut it off, more people kept raising their hands.
And I think he could have stood up there for another half hour.
Him and the Tea Party, let him talk as long as he wants, and let him find out what he wants to do. But Raymond did at the Republican Party. They did a great job of letting him talk, and like the Tea Party, the Republican is full of committee people who are really plugged in and know how things work. And so we were treated to a bunch of questions that I didn't think that I would probably ask, and I wish that I had my my notebook with me, to write things down. But it was, you need some help with that? I can do that. Here, let me do that. We should have been taking notes on a lot of this stuff to see how this works, because here we go. Raymond's, and sadly, he is retiring. He's retiring after this term, and he's been in the office since 1988, and he's seen it go to. They now do things with drones, for crying out loud. He has done a great job, and the gentleman who's going to be running to take his place, Sam Klatt, has been in the office a long time. So I don't see any big interruption in service there.
Well, one thing I like what Raymond said Thursday, he's been there, I think, 42 years?
Yes.
42 years. When he started, the department had 25 people.
Yes.
In 42 years, he's now got 29.
Yes.
So he's increased 4 people over 42 years.
He has been very good.
Which is like one person every 10 years.
Yeah, he's been very good. And some of these are like drone people,
yes.
Technological people.
Yes.
But I mean, he's done a great job. If all the county officials had done that well, we wouldn't be in the situation we are now.
Well, I think there's there's a lot of good people, I think, in the higher archives of government Highlands County. I think we're lucky to have Eric and his. I think I've never, in all the places I've lived, this is the most efficient motor vehicle department and accumulation, all kinds of things in there.
Yeah, Eric Zoyer's the tax collector, and the DMV now falls under his purview here.
And I think the clerk of courts has done, on the investment side, has done a really good job, and the technological side of being able to support all the departments. So I think we're kind of lucky in the department heads we have. I think they all tried to do a really good job and so on. But it was just, when you think about that, the elimination of property taxes, which, oh my God, if we think you got people coming to Florida now with no income tax and you eliminate property taxes, can you imagine the influx of people that's going to bring into the state? And that's all well and good. But one of my concerns, and I talk to a lot of people about this, and I keep saying to them, what's your biggest concern about living in Florida? And they must all say one thing: water.
Yes.
Where's the water coming from to support all of these millions of people that are coming to Florida?
There's a guy who's going to be I thought he was going to be running for ag commissioner, but apparently he's now got his sights set on the gubernatorial race. His name is Matt Taylor. You can find him on the Facebook under Matt the Welder. And he is the Joe Sixpack of Florida, and he's gone around looking at all of the problems that we've been having, and one of the things he's centering in on is the water and how the water is being sprayed with all of these terrible chemicals to do away with the weeds that are in the water. I mean, he has done a great job. We're going to try to get him on the program here to talk to him because he has a long list of that kind of thing. And I have heard of several developments who have slowed because they cannot get the water, and that may be what begins to regulate how many new developments. I don't know. Do they have new desalinization plants going in on the coast? I have not heard of any.
The only place I've heard that has any, and I'm sure I'm wrong on this, but is in the Tampa Bay area. But I mean, when you take a look at it, I drive north fairly often, and when I go up there, I'm just absolutely blown away with the construction up around the I-4 corridor. Oh my gosh, 429, 417, and even in Davenport. You get close to I-4 in Davenport, the construction there is just monumental.
Matt Taylor has said that they should take the orange off the license plate and put a home under construction because that's where all the orange groves are going. They're going to be, as they say, pushing up Yankees, as they say.
I mean, it is monumental. So Florida already has a good, and I think we have to thank the governor and the legislature for being able to generate all of this influx of people. And that's fine. People equate, income for the state, taxpayers of one form or another, supporters of construction, supporters of businesses and so on. It takes road construction because you drive around Florida, there are places that are never, ever done with road construction because
I-4.
They keep making a 3-lane road, a 4-lane road.
I-4 through Orlando, they just got done. I forget the name of the project, but it was the huge multi-billion-dollar project. And they said, oh, by the way, that's not quite good enough yet, so we're going to have to start all over and do even more stuff to move traffic through Orlando.
It's almost, you finish one, and it's so many people have moved in. Oh, my God, we got more traffic. We have to have another lane, or we have to have a bypass, or we have to have an exit ramp, or whatever.
Don't you wish you had stocks in Bob's Barricades?
Oh, my God.
I mean, good gravy. I mean, he's on a big ship someplace in the Caribbean just relaxing.
I was listening to a radio program, and the guy was Mike Slater, and he's on Patriot Radio. But anyhow, he was talking with people that are, what do you do for a living? And he was talking to this fellow who's in the lineman business, electrical lines.
He's the lineman for the county?
The guy says, I make over $200,000 a year.
Oh, yeah.
As a lineman.
Yes.
Okay. And he said, my son is now in the business.
We have been talking for a long time, and I think it's very important that there are kids who need to go into the trades. In fact, I talked to this a little while ago, a pastor from the Philippines who was talking about how if you didn't go to college, you wouldn't be anything. And I said, well, here in America, we're looking for welders, we're looking for carpenters, we're looking for electricians. He goes, oh, a handyman. I said, no, skilled trades. You can earn 6 digits. And the look on his face was, what are you talking about? I said, yeah, truck drivers make a lot of money, and we need those people as well as we need scientists and such as that.
Absolutely.
But
so I think it's, there's no doubt that you can earn an awful good living. You've got to be able to put in the time. You got to work. You got to get up every day and you got to go for it. But you can make an awful lot of money, much more than a lot of these kids will ever see that so-called graduated from college. They'll never see that kind of money.
Well, and one of the things that I had a dear friend of mine, the late Stan Durrance, who grew up around here, and back in the 1990s, he was a regular caller on my talk show. And one time he says, Barry, working for the county used to be one of the worst jobs. When you couldn't get a job anyplace else, you went to work for the county. He says, now it's one of the best jobs you can have. Days off, medical, the pay raise. And when they went to restructure one year, restructure pay grades, they found out that there were some guys who were lawnmowers. And they'd been doing it so long, and their raises had compounded. They were making more than some department heads, and they had to figure out how to make that jive. Right. But I think that we were talking a little bit earlier where to cut. One thing is to bring municipal wages more in line with local wages. Because we're going to talk about this in a little while, but the tariffs were designed to do a number of things. One of which was to bring imported goods up to the level that we're paying. So when you're buying something made in the Far East, where they can get guys for a few dollars a day, and we have to pay them $15 an hour, thank you, Bernie Sanders, they wanted to bring those numbers up so that American companies had a chance. If they would do away with that minimum wage, cut that minimum wage back, the prices would drop, and as the prices drop, that wage would equal out with what you have to buy at the grocery mart, or the gas pump, or wherever.
Yep. Well, it's just amazing. But I think when you look at it, and I understand the governor and some of the people in the legislature, not everybody in the legislature, because they had a special session to talk just about this property tax thing, and even with that special session, they couldn't get anything done.
No,
because I think there's so many politicians are afraid to say, oh my God, if we cut off the money coming into my county, my district, that's going to be suicide. Mm-hmm. Well, you really could do it if you put your thinking cap on and come up with creative ways of doing it. And that's why, and I'm not saying that my idea is a good idea, but I'm just saying, all right, let's not jump the horse all at one time. Let's just take a little bite and give you time to figure out over a 10-year period how you can make this happen.
When they made the moonshot and they were headed towards the moon, all the time they were firing their retro rockets to change it 3 degrees this way, 5 degrees this way, 6 degrees another way. And as they were going, they were changing the trajectory to get where they needed to go because they had to make little adjustments. And with something like that, it gives you a chance to make these small adjustments that need to be made and begin, perhaps, to turn things back over to the private sector and say, look, why don't you do this? Why don't you? This is not government's job. This is not our job. And we need to begin to look at what conservatism is, what conservatism means, and turn more things over to people and let people do what they want. And the United Way is just a wonderful organization. I don't give to the United Way because I don't necessarily like some of the people they give to. I give directly to the organizations that I like. Okay. And so I think that's what the government needs to do. Give us an opportunity to help support the things that we like and you'll never find a more accurate poll or a more accurate election than people giving money to what they like and not giving money to things that they don't like.
Well, I've always been a proponent of, and what I do not give to a political party. I give to individual candidates.
Yes.
Because I try to listen, watch, and hear what they have to say, what you think they're going to do. Okay, I know some promise you the moon, then they get in office, and all of a sudden it's, cloudy and rainy, and so on. So it's a matter of, trying to pick and choose from the people that are out there running for office. All right, which ones do I think are really going to support what I believe to be the right things? And
right now, our friend Kathy Chamberlain just had a press conference on the American First Executive Committees. There seems to be a fight brewing in the Republican Party of Florida against America First candidates.
Mm-hmm.
We saw that, and we talked about the Manatee County Republican Party being disassembled and other people being put in their place. And there seems right now to be a battle between the rhinos and people who consider themselves true Republicans. And so I'm not sure that donating to the party is the way to go, but donating to candidates, I think you have a candidate who more accurately reflects what you want.
Right.
And it's cubic dollars. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you it was something different. It's cubic dollars to get people elected. And right now, there's a lot of people in, I would say, both parties that where the cubic dollars are being funneled to the people who are doing what they want.
Well, you know, the sad part of it, I already heard this morning, I was watching some news this morning, and they've already said that the Democrats, we're going to shut the country down again in January.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yeah. They've already said that. Yep. We're going to shut it down in January because we're ticked off. We didn't get what we wanted, and so on. And of course, the other argument that they're having amongst themselves, they want to get rid of Chuck Schumer. So they're trying to figure out how do we get rid of Chuck Schumer? Okay.
Well, they're going to, I'm sure that he can be impeached or he can be forced out. There have been people who have been said, you know, the Chicago way, we'll give you a big juicy settlement if you leave. And if they don't take that, then they go the other way. But I think that the radical socialist, Democrat socialist wing of the party is feeling their oats. Oh. And now they want to move in. I'm not sure the country is ready for that. And I think New York is going to be a petri dish, a litmus test for this as you see what happens in New York, because even the Democrat governor of New York is not stepping up to help with the city with whatever that Mondami guy wants.
Well, see, Mondami says, I want to have a phone conversation with Donald Trump. Okay, well, and knowing Trump.
Oh, I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that.
Trump will do it.
Oh, sure.
Trump is the kind of person that his arch enemy, it doesn't matter. I will sit down with my arch enemy and have a discussion. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to give him anything, but I'm going to have a discussion with him.
Well, it's the Charlie Kirk philosophy. Charlie Kirk, I've seen several clips where people come up and say, what are you even doing here? He says, well, when people quit talking, that's when bad things happen. Mm-hmm. So I will come on and I might learn something, you know. Mm-hmm. I might learn something, you know. And Charlie, I wish I had half the knowledge that he has, or had, I should say. But at any rate, he would continue and show people, at least give them something to think about. Donald Trump is never, he never says, we won't talk. He said, we'll be glad to talk, but there's certain things I won't do. And with the Schumer shutdown at the very beginning, he said, look, we're not going to give away trillions of dollars to illegal aliens. Just forget about that. The Democrats didn't forget about it, and they let it go on way too long. Yep. They're taking the blame for this.
Yep.
And people are really mad at Democrats for letting this go on, and they walked away with virtually nothing. The Republicans said, we'll talk about this stuff. But I think that as this begins, you pointed to it, the focal point of this is going to be Obamacare. And I think it's going to be time that they reevaluate Obamacare and say, you know what, we tried it, it didn't work, and there's a great solution right now, right, even as we speak, and you're part of it, called concierge care, mm-hmm. where you walk in and it's like walking into a mechanic shop and it says, a brake job is this much. Transmission is this much. Well, change your oils this much. It's got the price ranges for you there, what's going to cost. And I'll tell you, we had Dr. Caruso, and when we paid in cash, mm-hmm. the price dropped dramatically. Well, and I think it's going to be up to now getting away from government paying and what the government will or won't pay, and into what people will pay for whatever care they need.
When Trump was in the first time, back in 2016, Dr. Gross, who's the doctor's organization, Epiphany Health over in Northport, was one of the first people to start, along with another doctor in Kansas, the concierge care concept in this country. And he said, talking to him, Dr. Gross, he said, when we met with Donald Trump on a number of occasions the first time, we had him pretty well convinced that this was a good way to go with health care. Mm-hmm. But then when he didn't get reelected, Biden said, throw all that stuff out. I don't want to hear about it, because they were getting so much money from the health companies that, they wanted that cash cow
Cubic
to continue.
dollars.
Right. But when you look at it, what that concept is, most of the doctors don't deal at all with Medicare or Medicaid. So you eliminate the dealing with the government. That's number one. And it's all strictly pretty much a cash business. All right, you pay me so much a month, you get to come to my office so many times a year. With his program, it's like you can go to him 22 times a year.
There's a doctor in Arcadia that does this?
He had an office in Arcadia, but they sent me a notice here a couple of weeks ago that as of the end of the year, they're going to be closing that one. I guess it just didn't do enough business.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to eliminate the one in Arcadia, which is unfortunate. I tried to convince him to come to Sebring, but I couldn't. I couldn't convince him. But and I would love to get him back on again as even a Zoom presentation for the Tea Party, because I think the concept is so great, people would love it and whatnot. So it's one of the potential concepts. I was hoping. I know Trump. I saw him talk when he was on the plane this weekend. He did say that we've got some plans for the healthcare in this country. I'm hoping that one of the things he's going to bring forward is this concierge care concept, because I think maybe you can't get it across the whole country, but I think you could get a good portion of the country under this umbrella in one form or another and make it work for people. Eliminate the government involvement in it. You deal it like you do with any other business. You got to go to the garage with your car, you do it. All right. This way you go to the doctor with whatever it is you need and so on. So,
well, the doctor has a steady stream of income.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me. The doctor has a steady stream of income. And then there are people who maybe in May and June, you don't need to go. Maybe in July, you got a cough and you got to go and have him take a look at it, and you get real honest to goodness care. And over the course of the year, it is less expensive than if you had to pay copays and all that. And your taxes, the one problem, I was going to mention this earlier, the one problem, especially with doing away with property taxes, is making sure those savings get passed along. Let's say that I have the Barry Foster apartment house, and I don't have to pay any property taxes anymore on the Barry Foster apartment house. We have to make sure that those tenants realize whatever savings that is. Let's say there's 40 units, and I save $100,000. Well, you need to divide that 100,000 by 40 and give them savings and pass that along.
Take it off of their rent,
yes,
their monthly rent. Yeah, absolutely. You've got to have the loopholes, because we've seen it a million times. If there's any loophole at all, there are some bad people that are going to take the loopholes. And
yes.
So yes, you have to have that concept where you're right. In an apartment house, if I don't pay $100,000 in property taxes, I have to divvy that up amongst and take it off of the monthly rent for the people.
Well, I remember the first time that Ron DeSantis lifted the gas tax for a month. He sent out a very stern warning to all the gas stations that, this reduction in tax, we want to see a reduction in gas prices to go along with it. And I think some of the stations were quicker to do it than others. Some said, oh, we already had a tank of gas in the ground, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. All right, fine. And it takes a while. You're right. It takes a while to make sure that the malefactors, the bad people get caught. But we have millions of people in Florida who are really, really ready to send them emails going, oh, this station didn't do that. My landlord didn't do this. And it would take a little while to sort out, but once they realize that somebody's going to complain, that it's just going to be easier for them to just go along with it.
Well, like I said, I think it's a great concept. I hope they don't give up on the idea of eliminating it, but I think, like I said, my idea would be to take a little bite at a time, not the whole enchilada, and just work your way through it over a period of time, but find a way to make it work. And I think they can if they want to. Do they have the want to? That's the issue. The politicians don't want to give up that golden cash cow, but somehow they've got to take a look at what they can do.
John, I've watched this for decades because when the legislature has no spine, the first thing they do is say, well, this needs to be a constitutional amendment. The people must decide. And we're going to put this on. And when it happens, you go, well, We didn't vote for it. Okay. The people of Florida mandated that this happen. And that's why the Florida Constitution looks like the Beverly Hillbillies car with stuff strapped to it and tied to it and Granny in the back rocking on the rocking chair there. I mean, that's why it looks the way it does, is because these people don't have any spine. And I just think that there are people, and perhaps when they get to the end of their legislative career, like the Florida legislature, you get 4 2-year terms.
Mm-hmm.
So in the last term, you can probably do what you want. What are they going to do? Primary, you're going to be gone anyway.
Right.
So it's going to take some of that. But you just don't find legislators that have. And we heard a story here not too long ago about a guy who had a piece of legislation that he wanted to introduce in the Florida House.
Mm-hmm.
And leadership told him, don't do this. He says, look, I promised my people I would do this. He says, you want to vote it down? Go ahead and vote it down. He says, but at least I'll do what I said I was going to do. He said, don't do it. So he did it anyway. And the next election, he was primaried by a well-funded candidate and thrown out because he didn't follow orders.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this is not something special to Florida. This happens all over the United States in local elections, regional elections, statewide parties. As we said earlier, there seems to be a move to get rid of America First candidates. And I think one of the reasons they don't like them is because they, quote unquote, won't follow orders.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's absolutely in it. You take a look at it. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not when Trump's term is up, all right, will they be able to hold that coalition together, or will they immediately be taken over again by the rhinos and go right back to where they were prior to Trump?
Oh, yeah. I think so. And you're going to have a very strong candidate. And I think Donald Trump, like Elon Musk, is going to be hanging in the wings trying to help out. And Elon Musk said that he was so much in support of Donald Trump because he could see what was going to happen if Trump didn't get elected. And Donald Trump has roughly 2.5 years to get done what he can do. And we saw what happened when Joe Biden got in. He made the announcement, America is back, meaning it's going to be business as usual, guys.
Yep. And they're salivating over that opportunity because they know that they want to have the good times rock and roll in position. So if they take over, that's the way it's going to be. It's going to be dramatic. They
dismantled the fence. They sold off the parts. I mean, they just let in illegals willy-nilly with no vetting whatsoever, and they're continuing to try to get rid of them. Some of the red states are moving them, so they're kind of squeezing them into the blue states, and we'll see how the blue states are able to deal with them.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I think, and one thing, and I believe he's begun to understand that the cost of food, kitchen table items, the economy's stupid is still a viable thing.
Oh yeah.
And I think with Trump announcing this weekend, he's now going to eliminate tariffs on food items coming into the country, beef, fruit, those kind of things that are being tariffed. He said, no, we're going to eliminate that to help lower the cost of food.
Well, there were 200 items that he reduced the tariffs on. He announced earlier last week, I should say, that the cost of a Thanksgiving dinner dropped by 25%,
yes,
according to the people at Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
So you take that for what it's worth. But I think one of the things he did with tariffs was he got some trade deals that he wanted,
mm-hmm,
and so now he can kind of let up on it a little bit. But they've reduced that to reduce the prices, and the price of gas. I saw where the price of a barrel of oil had dropped to $76. So we're going to start to see, I think, gas prices drop in a significant manner.
Well, this Prime station here and the little gas station right around the corner are both at $2.63 today.
Oh,
$2.63.
They were 69 last night.
Okay, $2.63.
Okay,
and so that is the lowest prices we have seen in this country since Trump left office.
And we all know, and I had to bring this up in one of our congressmen, Scott Franklin's, one of his calls, and then one of his aides called me back because I left him a message, and I said this happens on a regular basis. On Tuesday, the prices bump by like 30 cents a gallon,
mm-hmm,
and then over the course of the week, they drop. This time they dropped so dramatically. They were at 290, they went to 296, then it was 93, then it was 85. I mean, it went down within 4 days. We're back to where we were before. So if you fill up on a Monday or a Sunday, you should be able to weather the storm for a week until it comes again. And that's what we did. I topped it off last night, and did that. But the price of gas is going to be coming down. And because the price of gas comes down, the price of food items comes down because these are delivered by trucks that use gas. So I think little by little, it's going to be an effort to reduce the overall cost of things.
Well, I think there's no doubt. I mean, you take a look at it. We have not paid these kind of prices, like I said, since Trump was in the last time. I think when he left office, I watched this the first time when he left office in 2020. All right. The price here in Highlands County, and it fluctuated a little, but roughly was about 268 in that 267 in that ballpark. So that to me is, and obviously they were able to make a profit at that price. So, let's get the prices down. Let's keep them down. I mean, my daughter in Pennsylvania, she's still paying like $3.39 for a gallon of gas. $3.39.
There are some goods and services that are marked up so high that even when they cut the price in half, they're still making a pretty good profit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name anybody specifically, but there are certain things that you buy. When you buy them new, they are really expensive. If you can get them previously owned, the price is still pretty good price, but it's not nearly what it was.
Well, like I was listening to Mike Slater this morning coming up, and he was interviewing people that, tell me some good news from your perspective. This guy drives a car hauler. And he said, I have never been so busy hauling new cars as I am right now. Never. He said, so the economy definitely, from his perspective, is improving. And he said, I can see it, and everybody I talk to in my business sees the same thing.
And one of the problems is if you watch mainstream media, you will not see this.
No.
Okay, if you watch ABC, NBC, CBS, MS, whatever it is now, MS
Now,
CNN. Although CNN, I think, is trying to recoup. They're trying to be a little more balanced because they dropped like 12 viewers, and they're trying to recoup. So they've dinged the Democrats on a couple of things to try to get the more conservatives to watch them. But you have to really go to Newsmax, One American News, First Coast News. You have to go to some of these places that cover and they take the old Fox mantra, which is we'll cover the stories that the mainstream media is not covering. And by definition, they're going to be more conservative.
Right. Well, one of the big stories this weekend, of course, was the parting of the ways, evidently, between Donald Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yes.
And so on. Now, personally, one of the things I learned way back when I got into management was you never crucify a person in public. Okay, that was one of you didn't do it. No matter how bad the situation, you didn't go and crucify that person in front of other people. You called them in, you sat down, you said, look, we've got a disagreement going here, and one of us has got to fix the problem, and it's not going to be me. So, you have to fix your problem, and we're going to do it here in this room, just the two of us. So when you go out the door, things are going to change from your perspective, and so on. And I just wish, and I know that that's the way he operates, but I just wish that the president would have called Marjorie Taylor Greene in and said, Marjorie, we're going to have to come to the good Lord right now, because obviously the things you're saying and doing are not in line with what we want.
And of course, this is red meat for most of the media.
Oh, yeah.
To find out somebody who was a rabid Trump supporter, to have the Trump now disavow her for whatever crimes she's committed. And they never really outline what happened. They just talk about the horrible things he said about MTG, and such as that, trying to mark a fissure in the MAGA movement, which I don't think there is, but they're trying to make news where no news exists.
Well, I heard another person on Newsmax this morning was talking about a longtime person involved in politics. And he said, Marjorie, your number one job is to take care of your district. Forget all this outside stuff you're running around yelling about. Your number one job is to protect and take care of the people in your district, and that's what you should do. And he said, you've lost your way. You wandered off the so-called reservation, and now you're in hot water, and rightfully so. So I don't know whether she can resurrect her brand or not in Georgia. I'm not sure, or whether this is going to be the end of the road for her. I liked her in the very beginning. Marjorie Taylor was very supportive of the president and backed a lot of the things that he wanted to do. But somewhere along the line, she kind of lost her way and became very vocal against things that the president was trying to get accomplished. Don't understand it.
I don't understand it either. But as you say, there may be people whispering in her ear, just like there are people whispering in AOC's ear that she can unseat Chuck Schumer in the upcoming senatorial election, that they're all poised for the Democrats, socialist things to happen. And there are, socialism has never, ever worked.
Nope.
I saw this guy said, if I had $1 for every time socialism worked, I'd have no dollars. And by the way, if it did work, I'd still have no dollars.
Isn't it amazing, though, the people that run around promoting socialism, like Bernie Sanders and whatnot, are rich people?
Oh, yeah.
And Mr. Mondami guy never had a job in his life. He's lived off his parents, and he's 33 years old or whatever he is. He's lived off his parents his whole life, never had a job, and now he's going to be in charge of 9 million people in the city of New York.
Well, and, you've heard of the Peter Principle, where you rise to the level of your incompetence. And so this is a great, and I saw the great conservative Bill Maher, who he's a pretty liberal Democrat, but he's not a socialist. And he was talking about the great present that the election of Mondami was. He goes, to the Republican Party, because now he says, you're going to see sound bites of this stuff for the next 3-4 years and I'm hoping that people with cooler heads, it begins to sink in on them, and especially these kids. And I said this last week, I'll say it again. If you are a young socialist and think socialism is the way to go, you should have already bought your ticket, plane, train, automobile, whatever, to go to New York and be part of the collective and show us how it's done. Show us how Democrat socialism is going to be the savior of America. It's time for you to go to New York right now and begin to do this process, because the dream and the reality are two totally different things.
Yeah, and you can already see some of the cracks forming in his so-called plan, the great plan for New York City. Number one, you're right. You said it earlier. The governor has already cut off some of his plans. No, there's no way you're going to get $800 million for free bus service and free train service. That's not going to happen, because a lot of this stuff, he has no power to incorporate himself. He has to get the legislature. Now, the New York legislature is as bad as the governor up there. So there's no saying that they won't give him some of the stuff that he wants, but they're going to be hard pressed, because she's also, the governor, Hochul, is up for re-election. So if she wanders too far off the reservation of things like increasing taxes, which she said, you're not going to increase taxes, and I've promised the residents of New York that's not going to happen. And he wants to increase them by 2% on people making over $100 or $1 million or whatever. So it's going to be very interesting. I think he's going to start seeing the reality of life after January 1st when he takes over. Plus, the other thing I heard yesterday, which could be very interesting, that the current mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, has been whispering in the ears of the Republican administration, telling them some of the places where the bodies are buried in New York.
Oh, really?
So if that's true, then they're going to have some goods that they can spring. And because I think Eric Adams was out of his element as the mayor of New York. He may have been okay in the police department, but he was not a governor from New York. And I think the fact that he had the job and he wasn't able to, make things work is a good sign and I think Mondami is going to be the same kind of apple. He has no background in management at all, no background in running anything. the reality of life is going to hit him on January 1st.
This may be a full chromatic change in the way business is run, and New York may lose its position as the economic hub of America.
Oh, yeah.
Because now, and I talked about this 10 years ago, I said, in this world of, and this is in the 1990s, in this world of fax machines and Zoom calls, and you can run a huge corporation out of a very small town because you don't your means of production can be put all over the United States. And now you have a deep port in New York, but there's all kinds of deep ports up and down the East Coast. And as the taxes get higher, people can say, you know what, we're going to move our operation. Some of it's going to be more expensive than others, and some of it they may see some little shifting as they begin to put they don't put the big crane in New York, they put it in Boston or Philadelphia or Norfolk or someplace, down the line where they're going to get a sweeter deal. And you're going to see as these move out, you're going to have even more empty spaces than you had during the coronavirus.
Oh, yeah. No, and the other thing that's going to happen, and I know they know this, they know a lot more about it, but when you start losing population in big numbers, you lose districts.
Oh, yes.
All right? California, it's a prime example. New York is going to be a prime example. Illinois is a prime example. They've lost population to the degree, and I had it in that letter to the editor a week ago, and there's hundreds of thousands, and California lost millions of people. That's a district that's going to disappear. You're going to lose 3 or 4 congressmen in Congress, or maybe you're not going to lose a senator, but you're going to lose congressmen because you're going to lose districts.
That's right.
And so this is in a way, they're committing political suicide, even though I know they got this utopian idea for socialism and / communism. And I think it's all, in the end, I think they're going to get some rude awakening.
Well, it's the normalcy bias. They don't think things are going to change. In California, they're going to Texas. They're going to Oklahoma. They're going to Arizona. I don't know about New Mexico, but they're migrating out from New York. They're coming to Florida. But I will tell you, Alabama's a nice place. Georgia's a nice place. The Carolinas, very wonderful place to stay. So as they move, it will turn those states more red because what are they fleeing? They're fleeing those Democrat policies. And we had a small love seat we were getting rid of, and the guy bought it. And when he showed up, he had a California tag on his car and on his trailer. And I said, "Oh, California, huh?" And he goes, no, wait. He says, we're leaving to get rid of that stuff. He says, we're Republicans, okay? I said, well, that's good. That's good. He says, we're conservative Republicans. I said, they didn't look like they look like Jimmy Buffett, okay?
Yeah.
But that's okay. But we don't care what you look like as long as you vote right. But at any rate, they were very quick to indicate that they weren't coming to try to bring their California ways here. They were wanting the Florida ways, and they had no problem with whatsoever.
I had a cousin, an uncle, and his wife and family moved to California probably 60 years ago, at least 60 years ago, and whatnot. And he took my grandmother with them and whatnot. So my cousin, the parents are long gone. My grandmother's long gone. But my cousin out there, as soon as he was retired, he immediately moved back to Pennsylvania because he said, we couldn't take California anymore.
Oh,
He said, I did it until my retirement. He said, once I got my retirement, he said, we were gone. And they live in Johnstown, Pennsylvania now. He said, you cannot believe how bad the state had gotten out there.
We were at a garage, and again, this is back in the 1990s. We were at a garage sale of a couple who had just moved back from California, and their politics did not come up. But they were talking, they said, if you don't speak at least some Spanish, you're out of luck in California.
I was sent to California to work for one of our companies. Oh my gosh, 35, 40 years ago at least. My wife went with me because we were out there for like about a month. And it was in the Oakland area. And I will tell you, there was a 5-lane highway to get in to where this plant was that I had to go every day and whatnot. And it was absolutely suicide just driving on that road. It was bumper to bumper for as far as you could see going into the Oakland area and so on. And then when you we went to the mall and other places just as sightseers and tourists, if you will. And there were at that point, 50, 60 years ago, 40 years ago, there was people, we could not understand their language.
Yes.
I mean, it was like, where are the Americans? Where are people that speak English? And they weren't to be seen.
Yeah.
And that was that long ago. So I can't imagine what it is today with the influx of all the illegals that they've got there.
Well, we talked a little bit earlier about the cost of a Thanksgiving dinner, and this is where I make my pitch for this time of year. We're done with Halloween, and I hope you had a chance to spread the gospel during Halloween. But now, as we head into Thanksgiving and Christmas, is the time for family and friends gathering. Mm-hmm. And it's been said that, you shouldn't talk politics or religion at these gatherings. Mm-hmm. And I absolutely wholeheartedly disagree that you should be able to talk about them and try as much as you can to de-escalate if they start raising their voices, because the Democrats are into emotion, the Republicans are into fact, mm-hmm. and just back down. And you can use the Socratic method by asking questions, but it's time to show where some of the information we put here, where things are not going well, where things in the blue states are not doing as well as they could. And of course, they'll come back with something awful that Trump did. And you can say, well, that may be true, but what about this? And try to stay on topic, because it's up to us now to cause the kids to begin to look at places where they're going to find information. Say, look, if you go to One American News, if you go to Newsmax, well, those are conservative. Well, yes, they are conservative. Mm-hmm. But when I was a kid, I don't think anybody out there who's our age can say this. When I was a kid, there was two newspapers in town. There was the Republican newspaper and the Democrat newspaper. And I've told the story about the day my grandpa told me to go to get paper and I brought the wrong paper home. And my mother gently explained to me that this is the paper that I always need to get for grandpa. Okay, mm-hmm. fine. Mm-hmm. Well, if you are watching mainstream news or getting your news from TikTok, you're probably getting one side of the story. You owe it to yourself to look up the other side of the story. For instance, our dear friend Dale Flug would tell kids when he would give his constitutional lectures, there's nothing about education in the Constitution. That's something the government just took over. Well, they bristle and they go and they start looking through it and they go, you're right. Yes, I'm glad you went and looked. Did you find anything else that you found interesting? Did you look at the Bill of Rights and find out what our rights are? Were there things in there that you might not have understood? Mm-hmm. Because, for instance, until I got into college, I didn't understand the concept of states' rights, mm-hmm. because they would have you believe the Civil War was fought over slavery when it was really fought over the 10th Amendment is what it was really fought over. So it's time for us now to begin, and as gently as possible, and leading them in some way, say, well, you owe it to yourself to at least look it up. Mm-hmm. Well, they want to take away my rights. Well, what rights do they want to take away exactly? And sometimes they don't know and say, well, that would be interesting to know what rights you think you're losing. If you look at the 10th Amendment, if you look at the Bill of Rights, those are your rights under the Constitution. Did they teach you the Constitution in school? Mm-hmm. Well, no. And so it's going to be up to us as grandparents to talk to grandchildren, extended grandchildren, nieces, nephews, things like that, friends of theirs, and say, look it up for yourself. Don't trust me. I'll give you some places where you can go where I know you'll find a conservative view, mm-hmm. Of this. But it's going to be up to us to begin to lead the children in this. They've been taught in schools for years how bad America is and how wonderful socialism is. And I saw this guy talking about the movies have been the same way. You have Avatar movies and a bunch of the animated things that are where our culture is the Western culture is always the bad thing. So we need to teach them what Western culture, based on Christianity, how it works. God is not a respecter of persons. He doesn't care whether you're male or female. He doesn't care what race, creed, color, national origin you are. What he wants to know is, are you saved? Mm-hmm. Do you believe in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? And the rules in America are based upon what? The 10 Commandments. Have you read the 10? Well, no, they haven't. Well, why don't we read those? And you can kind of take a look at this stuff and tell me what you think about it. It's going to be, you're going to have a lot of new territory for these kids. And, and some people, your brother-in-law, whoever, may be hollering till he's blue in the face. And your job is to sit there and let him holler and then answer a soft answer turns away wrath. But it's going to be up to us to kind of be ready for this. And, when they say, well, we can't have fighting. I said, well, I'm not fighting. I'm just giving an alternative view of things. Mm-hmm. And you heard it says, I'm not arguing. I'm just trying to tell you why I'm right. Yeah. So yeah, we have now basically through New Year's. Okay. Mm-hmm. From now through New Year's, which is roughly 6 weeks. And we're going to have gatherings to do this. And, I'm hoping beyond hope that, we can do this. And one thing I wanted to point out is that, I asked who's serving Thanksgiving dinner, because we're going to eat Thanksgiving dinner out. Mm-hmm. And apparently there's a lot of places this year.
Yep.
And I've reached out to a couple of our favorite restaurants and said, you know what you ought to do? And this won't cost you a dime. You ought to take one of your big tables, one of your big round tables, or a couple of them, and make them community tables where anybody can come and eat for the people who don't want to eat Thanksgiving dinner alone. Mm-hmm. And you may meet some new people, you may make some friends, and it's a chance to go and not be depressed because you're all by yourself. There'll be other people who don't want to eat alone, and you can exchange stories and have something more to give thanks over.
This is the first time in my life that I'm going out for Thanksgiving dinner this year.
Oh, really?
There's some friends that I associate with a lot. Are going out, and they asked me, they said, John, do you want to come? Because I've always fixed Thanksgiving dinner myself, always, and mm-hmm. so on, even alone. But I said, maybe I ought to try that.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to try it this year, and whatnot. They've got reservations at a local place, and we're going to go, so we'll see how that goes. But this will be the first time, so yeah.
Well, and that I think that is wonderful. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I know people who have gone to some of the community dinners that they have for the people who can't afford Thanksgiving dinner, the Salvation Army and some of those, and they've gone to those places not because they needed to, mm-hmm. but because they wanted to sit down and eat with somebody.
Right.
Yep. And there's something about breaking bread together that gives you some kind of.
Yeah, because you never know who you're going to meet.
You never know,
and so on and whatnot. So, but it's just going to be kind of interesting, going to be kind of different, and so on. But we'll see how that whole process goes.
And it should be less expensive because the cost of Thanksgiving dinner is down 25% this year. So,
well, and I will say one thing about that. I was in the big box store this weekend, Friday, and whatnot. And I will say, as I walked up and down the aisles to get what I wanted, and so on, there were a number of items. Now, the item on it said price reduced.
Yes.
And so I have to take it at face value. They reduced the price. Now, how much of a price reduction was it? I couldn't tell you because it's maybe not an item that I normally buy. So I have an idea what the cost normally is. But there were a lot of items. And when they came out and it said to the public, and the president picked up on this, he said, well, Thanksgiving dinner is going to be like 25% cheaper this year. I can kind of believe that based on what I saw in the store this past week.
And let's say it's down by $1.50. Mm-hmm. That's better than it being up by $1.50.
Well, you see whole turkeys, 49 cents a pound. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty good deal.
It's a real good deal.
That's a pretty good, not for the turkey, but it's a pretty good deal. Okay.
I know he's going to pardon at least one, maybe two. Yeah. But we're out of time for the day. But tomorrow we got a real barn burner. Don't go anywhere. You've been listening to the latest edition of the Barry Foster Show, recorded at the Ridge Floor Studios in the City of Charm, beautiful downtown Avon Park. Any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions for the program, just drop us a line at the Barry Foster Show at gmail.com. Check out the YouTube page weekdays. We're going to try to put up a new program each and every weekday morning. Like and subscribe our page, please. It'll help us with the algorithm. And join our pages at the Barry Foster Show on Facebook and Instagram. As we continue to look for truth, justice, and the American way, Barry Foster and John Larsen, and we'll see you next time.